Right now, as you sit here watching this, something is happening inside your body that your last blood test tried to warn you about. And most people, they see that number, creatinine elevated, GFR declining. They nod at the doctor, take the paperwork home, and put it in a drawer because the information they were given was not enough to actually do anything with. And I need to tell you something about that system. The system that gives you a number and sends you home, it was not designed to give you time. A standard kidney follow-up appointment runs about 7 minutes. 7 minutes to explain one of the most complex filtering organs in your body and what is going wrong inside it and what you can do to change that trajectory. 7 minutes is not enough, which is why I am here today, because what you are about to hear in the next 35 minutes is what that appointment was supposed to cover. I am your physician narrator, and I have spent 2 decades watching patients receive elevated creatinine results and leave appointments more confused than when they arrived. Today, that changes for you. I want to start by asking you something. Type in the comments right now. Have you had a kidney function test in the past 6 months? Yes or no? I read every single one of those comments, and your answer to that question will tell me a lot about what brought you here today. Now, before going any further, I need to be clear about one thing. Everything I share today is based on published research and clinical experience, but your health situation is yours alone. Do not change your medications or stop any prescribed treatment without talking to your doctor first. What I'm going to give you today is information. Powerful, specific, actionable information that you bring to your next appointment as an informed participant, not a passive patient. An informed participant. There is a difference. And that difference could be the difference between a number that keeps climbing and one that starts moving in the right direction. Here is what most people do not understand about elevated creatinine, and I mean most people, including many general practitioners who only see a handful of kidney cases per year. Creatinine is not the problem. Creatinine is the messenger. Let that land for a moment. Creatinine is the messenger. It is a waste product your muscles produce every single moment of the day, every time a muscle fiber contracts. Your kidneys are supposed to filter it out and send it into your urine. When creatinine builds up in your blood, it means one thing. The filtration system is not keeping pace. The question is why? And the answer to that why is where everything changes. So here is what I want you to understand before getting into the 5 actions you can take starting today. The kidneys are not mysterious black box organs that either work or they do not. They operate through predictable biological pathways, and those pathways respond to what you put in your body, what you do not put in your body, and how you live inside the hours that make up your day. A 2022 meta-analysis published in the Journal of Nephrology looking at over 6,000 adults over 60 with early to moderate chronic kidney disease found that lifestyle modifications alone slowed the rate of kidney function decline by close to 40% in patients who implemented changes consistently over 6 months. Close to 40%. Think about what that means for you. That is not about slowing a disease that has already taken everything. That means the early and moderate stages, which is exactly where most of you watching this find yourselves right now. This is the window, and I am about to show you exactly how to use it. Now, before I get to the first action, which I am saving for last because it is the one that will surprise you most, I want to make sure you understand why I am counting down from 5 to 1. Number 1 is not here yet, but I promise you when I get there, it is going to reframe something you have been told about kidney health that is almost certainly wrong. So stay with me. Number 5 first. Type in the comments right now. What country are you watching from? I want to know where this information is reaching today. Number 5. Deliberate hydration. Not drinking when you are thirsty. Deliberate, scheduled, consistent. Water on a clock, not on a feeling. And here is why this distinction matters enormously for anyone over the age of 60. Your kidneys filter approximately 180 liters of blood every single day. 180 liters. To do that work, they require blood flow, and blood flow requires blood volume, and blood volume requires water. This is not complicated biology. This is plumbing, but here is where it gets personal. Here is what the 7-minute appointment does not have time to explain. As you age, your thirst mechanism becomes less sensitive, not a little less, dramatically less. A study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that adults over 65 may lose an average of 3 to 4% of body water before the thirst signal fires. In a younger adult, thirst activates at 1 to 2% dehydration. In an older adult, the alarm is delayed. By the time you feel thirsty, you are already meaningfully dehydrated. Your blood is thicker, blood flow to the kidney slows, and creatinine, with nowhere to go, accumulates. Now I need to be crystal clear about something. This is not about drinking gallons. Think of it like watering a garden. If you flood a garden all at once, the water runs off before the roots can absorb it. Your intestines can only process roughly 8 ounces of water every 20 minutes. Beyond that, it passes through without hydrating your cells. What your kidneys need is a steady, consistent supply throughout the day, not a flood, a slow, reliable rain. The target for most adults with mildly to moderately elevated creatinine and normal urine output is 6 to 8 glasses of plain water daily, spread across the hours from waking to early evening. Herbal teas count, clear broths count, cucumber, watermelon, celery, zucchini all contribute meaningfully to fluid intake. What does not count and what actively works against you is alcohol, large quantities of caffeine, and sugary beverages. Those impose a fluid deficit. Every glass of soda your kidneys have to process is one less glass of clean water doing the work you actually need done. Here's the protocol. Start tomorrow morning, not after breakfast. Before coffee, before food, before anything else, drink one full 8-ounce glass of room temperature water. Set a phone alarm for every 2 hours until 6 in the evening. Each alarm is a reminder to drink another 8 ounces. That is your minimum. That is the floor. Fill a 1.5 liter bottle each morning and make finishing it by mid-afternoon your non-negotiable. Check your urine color. Pale yellow means you are hitting the target. Dark amber means your kidneys are working with less than they need. Now I want to be honest with you about the first week, because if I do not, you might do this for 3 days, think it is not working, and stop. Here is what actually happens. Week 1, you will be in the bathroom more than you expect. That is not failure, that is recalibration. Your body has been running on less fluid than it needs, possibly for years. When you suddenly provide adequate water consistently, there is an adjustment period. Your kidneys are reestablishing a rhythm. Most people move through this in 5 to 7 days. Week 2, you start to notice things stabilizing. Week 3, and this is when I hear from patients, they say something shifted. Energy, clarity, the heaviness around the lower back that many people with kidney stress carry without even naming it. That begins to lift. Week 4 and beyond, you are running a new baseline, a better one. Most people quit after 3 days. Do not be most people. Now, if you have been told by your physician to restrict fluid intake due to congestive heart failure or advanced kidney disease, this protocol is not for you without explicit guidance from your nephrologist. For most people watching this is step 1, and it costs nothing. But hydration alone is only part of the picture, because even with perfect hydration, something else may be quietly making your kidneys work harder than they should. Something that most people eat in quantities that sound perfectly reasonable. Let me explain. Sandra is 67, retired postal worker from Virginia. She came to me after her creatinine result came back elevated for the second time in 8 months. She was doing everything she thought was right. She was exercising, avoiding salt, drinking enough water, she thought. Her daughter had told her to eat more protein because she had read it helped with muscle strength as you age. So Sandra was eating close to 100 grams of protein a day. Chicken breast, Greek yogurt, a protein bar in the afternoon. All of it on the surface sounds like a health-conscious older woman doing the right things. And nobody, not her primary care doctor, not the internet articles her daughter found, told her what that protein was doing to her kidneys. I want to tell you what I told Sandra. Number 4, protein reduction, specifically reducing animal protein. And this one is going to feel counterintuitive, especially if you have been told that older adults need more protein to maintain muscle. That advice is not wrong for healthy kidneys. But for kidneys that are already struggling, it misses something critical. Here is the mechanism. When your body digests protein, it breaks it down into amino acids and nitrogen-containing waste products. Urea, uric acid, and yes, creatinine itself. All of these must be filtered by the kidneys. The more protein you consume, the more nitrogen waste your kidneys must clear. Think of it like a postal sorting facility. When the volume of packages is low, the sorters handle everything efficiently. When the volume doubles, things back up. Packages pile up. The system slows. For kidneys already working at reduced capacity, a high protein load is like flooding that facility on a day when half the sorters have called in sick. Here's what the research says. A 2019 analysis published in the Journal of the American Society of Nephrology, reviewing data from over 12,000 adults with chronic kidney disease, found that reducing protein intake to between 0.6 and 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight per day slowed the rate of GFR decline by approximately 31% compared to standard intake. 31%, not a rounding error. That is meaningful protection for an organ you cannot replace. For a person weighing 70 kilograms, that means roughly 42 to 56 grams of total protein per day, about the size of your palm at each meal. Not elimination, moderation with intention. And here is the piece that matters most. Not all protein is equal for your kidneys. Red meat and processed meats produce the highest nitrogen waste load per gram of protein consumed. Plant-based proteins, lentils, chickpeas, tofu, produce significantly less nitrogen waste from the same protein content. Fish and poultry fall in between. Your kidneys know the difference even when your taste buds cannot. Now I need to be crystal clear. If you have protein energy malnutrition, if you are underweight, if you have had recent surgery or illness, reducing protein without medical guidance can cause serious harm. This conversation needs to happen with your doctor or a renal dietitian who can calibrate the target for your specific GFR and overall nutritional status. What I am giving you today is the direction and the mechanism. The precise number for you requires a professional. Sandra had been eating close to 100 grams of protein a day. I brought her down to 60 grams, shifted the sources. Less chicken breast, more lentil soup, less protein bar, more eggs in the morning. The change felt small. The impact was not. Picture her sitting across from me at her 3-month follow-up. She pushes the paper across the desk. Her creatinine had dropped from 1.4 to 1.2, not dramatic, not a cure, but movement in the right direction. For the first time in 2 years, she said to me, "Nobody told me the protein was the problem. Nobody told me I was literally giving my kidneys more work to do every single day while trying to eat healthy." That is what falls through the cracks in a 7-minute appointment. But protein is only one piece, because even with optimal hydration and lower protein, there is another force working against your kidneys every moment of the day, one that most people have dramatically underestimated, and it operates through a mechanism that creates a damaging cycle the kidneys cannot break on their own. Number 3, sodium reduction. And I am not talking about the salt shaker, I am talking about hidden sodium. The sodium that is invisibly embedded in the foods that do not even taste particularly salty. This is the one that gets people. This is the one that makes patients say, "I thought I was already doing this." Here is how sodium damages the kidneys. When you consume sodium, your body retains water to maintain the correct sodium concentration in your blood. This increases blood volume. Increased blood volume raises blood pressure. An elevated blood pressure, sustained over months and years, is one of the most destructive forces your kidneys face. The filtering units inside your kidneys are called glomeruli. Think of them as incredibly fine sieves, each one a tiny cluster of capillaries thinner than a human hair. These structures are exquisitely sensitive to pressure. Every point of sustained high blood pressure is like running water through those sieves at higher and higher force. Over time, the mesh tears. Protein leaks into the urine, a sign that the filtering barrier has been breached. Creatinine climbs, and the kidneys are pushed down a path that becomes progressively harder to reverse. For adults over 60 with elevated creatinine, nephrology guidelines recommend no more than 1,500 to 2,000 milligrams of sodium per day. That is roughly half a teaspoon of table salt in total, not in cooking, in total, from every source. The problem is that the average American consumes close to 3,400 milligrams per day, and most of that excess does not come from the shaker on the table. A single serving of canned soup can contain 800 to 1,200 milligrams of sodium. One serving. A restaurant meal can easily hit 2,000 milligrams before you have touched the bread. Deli meats, cheese, condiments, packaged bread, breakfast cereals, even cottage cheese that markets itself as a health food, these all carry sodium loads that can use up your daily budget in one sitting. And they do not taste like salt because your palate has adjusted to that baseline level over decades. You have been swimming in it so long you cannot feel the water. The solution is not to make food joyless. It is to redirect where the flavor comes from. Garlic does things to food that salt cannot. Lemon juice applied to the right dish creates a brightness that replaces the role salt was playing. Cumin, turmeric, smoked paprika, fresh herbs, vinegars, all of these build complexity without contributing to the pressure damage your kidneys are absorbing every moment of every day. Start this week. Pull out every packaged product you currently use and read the sodium per serving. Anything above 300 milligrams per serving should be replaced or significantly reduced. Make your own stock from vegetables and use it as the base for everything you would have opened a can for. Remove the salt shaker from the table entirely. Not because you can never have salt again, but because removing it from the table removes automatic, unconscious sodium addition from your daily routine. Within 2 to 4 weeks of meaningful sodium reduction, most people with sodium-sensitive hypertension see a measurable drop in blood pressure. And with that drop comes a reduction in the pressure burden your glomeruli are carrying 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. That is not a small thing. That is the difference between a filter slowly tearing and a filter that has a chance to hold. Now, I need to share the rest of Sandra's story, because what happened next is something her daughter brought to my attention during week 6 of the protocol, and it is something I want you to hear. Sandra's daughter called my office on a Tuesday afternoon. She said something I want you to picture. She said, "I do not know what you changed with her diet, but she slept through the night for the first time in months. And when I saw Sandra the following week, she told me she had not realized how much the sodium had been affecting her sleep, her swelling, the tightness in her legs at night. She said, 'I thought that was just aging. I thought that was just what 67 feels like.' She was wrong. It was sodium. It was always sodium, hiding in plain sight in the foods she had been eating for 30 years without questioning. That is the part of the story nobody tells you in 7 minutes. But there is more. Because even if you master hydration, protein, and sodium, there is still a fourth enemy that may be working silently against your kidney's microvasculature. One that does not announce itself. One that most people over 60 are already dealing with in some form, whether they have a diagnosis or not. Number 2, blood sugar management. And I want to address something before going further, because I hear this from patients constantly. I do not have diabetes, so this does not apply to me. I need you to hear what I am about to say very carefully. This applies to you even if you have never been diagnosed with diabetes, even if your fasting glucose looks normal on paper. Here is why. There is a zone between normal blood sugar and diabetic blood sugar. It is called prediabetes, and according to the CDC, close to 88 million American adults are in that zone right now. 88 million. And the overwhelming majority of them do not know it. And here is the part that connects directly to your creatinine number. Research published in the Journal of the American Medical Association found that kidney function markers, including GFR and urinary protein levels, can begin deteriorating during prediabetes, well before any formal diabetes diagnosis is made. The damage does not wait for the diagnosis. It starts in the in-between. Here is the mechanism. When glucose circulates in your blood at elevated levels, even mildly elevated, it undergoes a process called glycation. Glucose molecules attach to proteins in blood vessel walls, stiffening and damaging them. The glomeruli in your kidneys, those delicate filtering clusters I described earlier, are served by capillaries so fine that glycation damage accumulates rapidly. Think of it like leaving a leather glove in the sun every day for 5 years. At first you do not notice. Then one day the leather is stiff, then it cracks. The damage did not happen overnight. It happened one afternoon at a time, and nobody thought to bring the glove inside. You do not have to be diabetic for this process to be happening in your kidneys. You just have to be eating in a way that creates repeated blood sugar spikes throughout the day. And in America, for adults over 60, that is the default pattern. A breakfast of toast and orange juice, lunch with packaged bread or crackers, a pasta dinner. Each one of those meals creates a blood sugar spike. Each spike means elevated glucose circulating through your glomeruli for 2 to 3 hours afterward. Multiply that by 3 meals a day, 365 days a year, for 5 or 10 years. That is glycation damage accumulating in the most sensitive structures your kidneys have. If you want to know what your blood sugar is actually doing, ask your doctor for an HbA1c test. This measures your average blood sugar over the previous 3 months. If it has not been checked in the past year, bring it up at your next appointment. Ask specifically. Do not assume it was included in a standard panel. Now, the dietary approach that most directly protects against this kind of damage centers on 3 shifts. First, replace refined carbohydrates with fiber-rich alternatives. Lentils instead of white bread. Brown rice in smaller portions instead of white rice in large ones. Berries instead of fruit juice. Fiber slows the absorption of glucose into the bloodstream. It is the difference between a slow river and a flash flood. Your glomeruli do not fare well in flash floods. Second, distribute carbohydrates across the day rather than concentrating them in 1 or 2 large meals. 3 smaller meals with protein and fat included creates a steadier blood sugar curve than 1 large carbohydrate-heavy meal, even if the total carbohydrates consumed are the same. The curve matters as much as the total. Third, move after meals. I know that sounds almost too simple, but a 2023 study in the journal Diabetes Care found that a gentle 15-minute walk after a meal reduced post-meal blood glucose by an average of 17% compared to remaining seated. 17%. Your muscles actively take up glucose during movement. That glucose goes into your muscle cells instead of circulating through your glomeruli. The walk does not have to be fast, it does not have to be long, but it needs to happen within 30 minutes of finishing the meal. Start tomorrow. After your next meal, get up and walk for 15 minutes, not fast, just walking. See what that one change feels like after a week, then you build from there. If you are already on blood sugar medication, this approach works alongside your medication, not instead of it. If you are on metformin, on insulin, on any glucose managing drug, do not adjust your doses based on anything I say here. That is a conversation you have with your prescribing physician after implementing these dietary changes and seeing how your levels respond. Because when the dietary changes reduce the glucose load your medication is working against, your medication may work more powerfully, and that needs to be monitored. Now, Sandra's story has one more chapter, and this one she did not see coming. At her 6-month follow-up, Sandra brought something unexpected, a list. It was written in pencil on an index card, and she pushed it across the desk before I could say anything. 7 items, every medication and supplement she was taking. She said, "My daughter made me write this down after watching something online. She said maybe I should show this to you, and I am glad she did. Because item 4 on that list was ibuprofen, 200 milligrams, 3 times a day for her lower back pain. Every day for the past 2 years, and nobody had connected that to her kidney numbers. Nobody had said the word nephrotoxic to Sandra in all of her appointments. And that brings me to number 1. Number 1. This is the one I have been building toward, and I want you to sit with this for a moment before I explain it. Because when I tell you what it is, your first reaction might be, but I need that. Or, my doctor prescribed it. Or, I have been taking that for years with no problems. I hear all of those responses, and I want to give you the complete picture. Certain medications that are completely common, completely legal, and widely used are directly toxic to kidney tissue. Nephrotoxic is the medical term, and the most common nephrotoxic substance in older adults is one of the most purchased over-the-counter medications in the United States. NSAIDs, non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, ibuprofen, naproxen, diclofenac, and their prescription strength versions. Here is how they damage kidneys. Your kidneys rely on compounds called prostaglandins to maintain blood flow through their own filtering tissue. Think of prostaglandins as the internal managers of kidney blood supply, constantly regulating blood vessel dilation to ensure the glomeruli receive adequate flow. NSAIDs work by blocking the enzymes that produce prostaglandins. In healthy joints and muscles, that blocking effect is what reduces pain and inflammation. But in the kidneys, blocking prostaglandins is like removing the managers from the facility during the busiest shift. Blood flow to the glomeruli drops. Filtration pressure changes. Creatinine accumulates. And in people who are already dehydrated or who already have reduced kidney reserve, which describes most people over 65 with elevated creatinine, the damage can be rapid and significant. A 2021 study in Clinical Kidney Journal found that regular NSAID use in adults with already reduced kidney function was associated with a close to 38% faster rate of GFR decline compared to those who avoided NSAIDs, close to 38% faster kidney decline. from a medication you can buy without a prescription at any pharmacy, from a medication millions of people take every single day for back pain, knee pain, arthritis, without knowing what it is doing to an organ they cannot see. I am not telling you to stop your medication without your doctor's approval. I want to be unambiguous about that. What I am telling you is this: have the conversation. Ask your prescribing physician or primary care doctor, given my creatinine level and my GFR, is there an alternative worth considering for pain management? Acetaminophen, taken in appropriate doses, is generally considered safer for kidney tissue than NSAIDs, though it has its own considerations and dose limits. Topical pain relief, physical therapy, nerve blocks, there are pathways, but you cannot walk down those pathways unless you ask the question. And you cannot ask the question unless you know the question exists. The medication review I am asking you to do is this. Before your next appointment, write down everything you take. Every prescription drug, every over-the-counter drug, every vitamin, every supplement, every herbal remedy, every protein shake ingredient, everything. Do not assume your doctor has this list. In the fragmented American healthcare system, the left hand frequently does not know what the right hand is prescribing. You may see 4 different specialists. None of them has a complete picture unless you create it and bring it to them. Specific questions to ask. Is any of this nephrotoxic? Does any of this need dose adjustment given my current kidney function? Are there drug interactions on this list that could be affecting my kidneys? And are there safer alternatives for pain management or any other symptom I am managing with NSAIDs? That conversation is worth having. Sandra had it. The ibuprofen came off the list. Her doctor recommended a course of physical therapy for the back pain and a topical anti-inflammatory that does not carry the same systemic kidney risk. At her 9-month follow-up, her creatinine was 1.1, down from 1.4 when she had first walked into my office. Her eGFR had improved by 11 points. Sandra told me, I spent 2 years convinced my kidneys were just getting worse because I was getting older. Nobody told me what was in my hands to change. That is exactly what I mean when I say the system was not designed to give you time. Now let me tell you why these 5 actions work differently together than they do individually. Because this is the part that most health videos get wrong. They give you a list and let you pick your favorites, and that is not how biology works. Each of the 5 things I have covered targets a different pathway of kidney stress. Hydration optimizes blood flow. Protein reduction lowers the nitrogen waste load. Sodium reduction decreases the pressure burden on the glomeruli. Blood sugar management protects the capillary mesh from glycation damage. And medication review removes hidden chemical toxins from the equation. When you address 2 or 3 of these simultaneously, their protective effects compound. Lower blood pressure combined with improved blood flow means more oxygen reaching kidney tissue that has been struggling. Reduced nitrogen waste combined with better hydration means the kidneys can clear what remains more efficiently. Stable blood sugar combined with lower sodium pressure means the glomeruli are experiencing less cumulative daily stress from 2 different directions at once. A 2020 study in Kidney International reported that patients with early chronic kidney disease who implemented comprehensive lifestyle changes, including dietary modification, hydration improvement, and medication review, experienced significantly slower disease progression than those who addressed only one factor at a time. The biology is synergistic. The combined impact meaningfully exceeds the sum of the parts. This is why I want you to approach this as an integrated protocol, not a menu. Start with the action that feels most accessible today. For most people, that is hydration. It costs nothing. It requires no shopping, no cooking changes, no doctor's appointment. Start there. Then add protein reduction this week, then sodium the week after. Layer the changes in as quickly as your life allows, because each one builds on the last. Now let me give you a simple decision framework for food, not a rigid meal plan, a compass, because the kidney protective eating pattern is actually simpler to navigate than it sounds once you know the underlying principle. Vegetables of all kinds support your kidneys. Leafy greens, cauliflower, cabbage, green beans, broccoli, bell peppers, all excellent. If your physician has flagged high potassium as a concern, which becomes relevant in more advanced kidney disease, there are specific vegetables to moderate. But for the vast majority of people in early to moderate stages, vegetables are not the problem. Eat them freely. Fruits with lower potassium and phosphorus loads, apples, berries, grapes, pears, cherries, all supportive. Whole grains in appropriate portions, oats, barley, brown rice, contribute fiber that benefits blood sugar and reduces the glycemic impact of meals. Plant proteins, lentils, chickpeas, tofu are your new foundation. Fish and poultry in moderate portions are the preferred animal proteins. Healthy fats from olive oil, avocado, and small handfuls of walnuts support cardiovascular health, which is directly tied to kidney health because the same damaged vessels that affect your heart affect your kidney blood supply. What to reduce or eliminate: red meat and processed meats. Not because protein is evil, because the specific nitrogen waste profile of red meat combined with the sodium load of processed versions creates a double burden your kidneys are working against every day. Canned and packaged foods with high sodium content, sugary beverages and foods that create blood sugar spikes, alcohol, which is dehydrating, metabolically costly, and interacts with many medications your kidneys must process. Dairy in large quantities becomes more relevant in later stages of kidney disease due to phosphorus content, but reducing heavy dairy consumption now is a reasonable protective measure. Here is the touchstone. If it grew in the ground or swam in clean water and you can still recognize what it is probably working with your kidneys. If it came in a packet, a tin, or a drive-through window, it is probably working against them. Use that as your first pass filter in the grocery store and at the restaurant. Now, there is one more thing I need to give you before closing today, and it is the thing that, in my experience, most health videos leave out entirely because they give you the protocol but not the tracking system, and without tracking, you are flying blind. Here are the numbers worth monitoring over time, values to request at your next appointment and every appointment after. First, serum creatinine and calculated eGFR. These are your headline indicators. You want to see the direction of change over months, not just the number on a single test. Second, urine albumin to creatinine ratio. This measures whether protein is leaking into your urine, which is an early and sensitive sign of glomerular damage, often detectable before creatinine itself starts moving significantly. Third, blood pressure at every visit. Your kidneys are acutely sensitive to sustained pressure. If your blood pressure is not being measured at every appointment, ask for it to be. Fourth, HbA1c. If you have diabetes or prediabetes, and if you are not sure whether you have prediabetes, request the test. Fifth, electrolytes, specifically potassium and phosphorus, which can become dysregulated in more advanced kidney disease and which your doctor needs to monitor as you make dietary changes. Here is what I want you to do with those numbers. Keep them in a notebook or a note on your phone. Date each set of results. Look for trends across 3 to 6 months, not single points. Progress you can measure is progress you will sustain. And when you bring improved numbers to your doctor, those numbers become the evidence base for an informed conversation about what is working and what might need adjusting. You stop being a passive recipient of someone else's clinical judgment, and you become an active partner in your own care. Now let me tell you what happens if you implement what you have heard today versus what happens if you put it in a drawer. 6 months from now, one of two things is likely. Your creatinine number continues to climb as it has been because the conditions that are driving it upward have not changed. Or you have spent 6 months drinking water on a schedule, replacing red meat with lentils, reading sodium labels at the grocery store, taking a 15-minute walk after dinner, and bringing a complete medication list to your doctor with specific questions. And your creatinine number tells a different story. I have seen the second scenario happen for patients across 2 decades of practice. Not for every patient, not always dramatically, but often enough and consistently enough that I believe with genuine conviction that this window you are in right now, the early and moderate stage where the kidneys still have meaningful reserve, is the most important window you have. The kidneys do not announce when that window closes, they just quietly narrow it. Month by month, appointment by appointment, drawer by drawer. You are here today. That already puts you ahead of the vast majority of people who receive this result and do nothing with it. If this video has given you something you did not have an hour ago, hit the like button right now, not for me. Because every like tells the platform that this information matters, and it gets shown to someone else sitting with their elevated creatinine result tonight, not knowing what to do with it. One click from you could be the reason that person finds this video. That is not a small thing. Now, the 5 things covered today in order from 5 to 1. Hydration on a schedule, not on thirst. Protein reduction with a shift toward plant sources. sodium reduction focused on hidden sodium in packaged foods, blood sugar management through dietary changes, and movement after meals. And number 1, the medication review, the conversation with your doctor about NSAIDs and any other substances that may be placing additional stress on kidneys that are already working harder than they should. These 5 things work together, they compound, and they are available to you starting today, not after the next test result, not after the next appointment, today. Type 1 finished in the comments below if you stayed with me through this whole video, and then send this to one person, one specific person, not your contacts list, one person you know who has had their kidney numbers come back elevated and has not known what to do about it. The information you just received is not common. Most people never hear it laid out this clearly. You can be the reason someone else does. There is one more thing I almost did not include today because I want to save it for a full video, but you need to know it exists. There is a supplement that has more published clinical research on kidney protection than almost anything else I could point you to, and it costs less than $1 a day, and almost nobody is talking about it in the context of creatinine management. That is next week. Make sure you are subscribed and the notification bell is on, because that video is one you will want to have found before your next blood test. Do not let anyone tell you it is too late, because it is not.